Okay, we're live. Good evening. This is Attorney Vincent Davis, and this is The Secret: How to Fight CPS and Win. I'm joined tonight by my very special guest host, Miss G Urjet Truman. How are you, Miss G?
I'm doing good, and you?
Doing good. And we have another co-host tonight, Miss Deidre Payne. Miss Payne, how are you tonight?
I'm good, thank you.
Good. It's good to see you. And we have a very special guest, ladies. We have Miss Ellie Morales. Did I
Mm,
pronounce that right, Ellie?
yeah, Ali Morals.
Oh,
Yes.
Ellie Morals. Okay. Sorry about that.
It's okay.
So, Miss Morals, are you somewhere in the United States?
Yes, I am.
Okay, and I was told that you prefer not to say where you're from.
Correct.
Okay, fair enough. A little anonymity. So, what's going on with you and CPS?
Well, currently I'm in the middle of a case, actually at the foot end of it, I should say. During the pandemic, when we're on lockdown, during the quarantine, there was, I would say, a battle with domestic violence. I worked for a medical facility. At one point, it came to where I had to work 4 double shifts in 1 week due to the fact that, medical staff was getting COVID, and then when they were done with it, they would then quit. So we became real shorthanded at this time. During this whole situation of the lockdown, my ex got involved with methamphetamines and then later PCP. But during that time, when I would come home, I would be greeted by him with fist to the face. That when I would be asleep, he would break into my home, would wake up with him either choking me or beating me. Um, uh, yeah. So, unbeknownst to me, guess whenever a call is put into uh, the authorities, police department, whatever not, they were mandated to call DCFS or CPS and let them know the situation. Well, the city that I had lived in, 37 times the cops were called. That police department never got DCFS involved. But unfortunately, when I went to go pick up my daughter from my ex's mother's house where he resided, um, he was there. Um, he pulled me out of my car window and proceeded to beat me in broad daylight in his front yard. His neighbor that lived across the street had called in she called 911 and was describing the beating or what he was doing to me as the cops got there. Well, when the cops showed up, 6 police cars showed up, guns drawn. By that time, well, initially when he heard the first police sirens, my ex ran into his home and I guess locked the door. So when the cops got there, guns drawn, I was in the front yard bleeding. And they proceeded to go into the house, look for him. They brought him out. They brought his mom out, along with my daughter. My daughter came, like, immediately ran into my arms. The cops then proceeded to ask me in front of my ex if he was the one that did this to my face. Uh, yeah, I didn't want to say it in front of my daughter, so I just looked at them with a blank stare, like pretty much like, um, obviously he did this to me. I mean, it would have been obvious to me if I was a cop, but then again, who knows? But so, anyways, from that point, about a week later, I came home from work and there was a note on my door asking me to give a social worker a call, that she needed to speak to me. Then proceeded to call her, asked her what this was about. She told me that, that city's PD had called her, and it was, their like proper protocol that they call CPS or DCFS and let them know about what was going on. I told her about the incident. Then I told her, this happened while my where it happened, and told her everything exactly what happened, but that my daughter hadn't seen it because she was inside the house. I should also say that I have a son who was at this time presently he was with his father visiting, so different man. So cut to, I thought everything was okay until she called me back about a week later and mentioned to me that the city that I had lived in, she looked through the police reports and found that all these incidents had happened. And I said, yes. So pretty much she said, what are you doing about it? And I said, well, you know, I'm trying to have his mom talk to him so he could stay away. She then told me that I would have to get a restraining order, and I said, okay. As far as I was concerned, all the courts were closed, but she told me that I had to go to this one particular court, go fill out the paperwork. So I did, and they had lost my paperwork, so I did it two more times. Unfortunately, in the middle of the second time of me doing so, she said that if I didn't get a restraining order, that she was going to take my children away. I told her, look, I did it the first time. They lost the paperwork. Second time, we're probably like 3 days. She called me 3 days after I already had filled out the paperwork a second time for the restraining order. Um, Again, I don't know. I guess the second time they lost my paperwork. So in between that time and me going a third time, she came into my home without. Um, I believe she had a warrant. I had just did. This was my fourth double shift of the week. Did laundry after I got out of work. Came home. Just set the laundry in my living room. Went to sleep. Woke up, took a shower. As I'm walking out of my bedroom to go into the living room to start folding the clothes, the door was opening. As I was walking out of my bedroom door, it was the social worker and the apartment building's manager letting her in. Um, I mean, I was shocked. I was stunned. I was just baffled because the first words that came out of her mouth were, "I'm here to take your kids away." And, you know, speechless, not knowing what to do. Never been in this predicament before. Didn't know anybody who had at that moment. Just began to ask her why, what was going on. She said, "Are you asking me why?" She said, "I told you if you didn't have a restraining order, I was going to do this." And I said, "But I'm in the middle of a third, getting word from the third time of me filling it out." I said, I had proof, but my ex stole the phone of, me videotaping me handing the paperwork for a third time to, I guess it would be like the court's security or somebody that worked for the court. He was supposed to deliver it into the court, had that all on video, but my ex had broken into my home and stole my phone. So, yeah, she said, "You think this is a game?" She said, "How stupid are you? Are you not aware of the severity of your situation?" And just like her asking me if I was stupid and if I was aware of the severity of the situation, it was just like, I wanted to respond back, "Are you stupid? Like, of course I know the severity of it. I'm the one with the bruises, the marks. I'm the one that has had to live through this whole situation. But, yeah, so that's where we're at now. The social worker, the second social worker that came into this case, has been pretty much biased all the way through. I feel like I've been targeted due to the fact that they know that I was born into the system and aged out of the system. Um, every time they would ask me if I had support or a support system to help me with my children, I told them no, because I've been the one supporting both of my kids with never asked the fathers for child support, had my own apartment, lived on my own, had my own health insurance for both my kids and myself. Just pretty much been doing everything on my own. As a proud single mom, I felt that me supporting myself and my kids, that's something that should have been it should have been like, hey, good on you, you support yourself, good for you, but instead it's been seen as a bad thing. So now, with the social worker being biased, every time it came to drug testing, my ex said that I used drugs along with them. I said that was a lie. When the social workers looked into it, got, the drug test, because at my medical facility, during COVID, we had got like our drug tests. They started doing random drug tests like every 2 weeks. So all of my tests since I started working there have all been clean, no drug usage. They asked my son's father, who's my oldest child, if he knows of me using drugs. And he says, I've known her since she was 13. The only drug that I've ever known her to use was medicinal cannabis when she had cancer. But as far as anything else, he's like, she's never used any drugs. She's always been against it. So, uh, with the proof from my employer and then the word of my first child's father, um, going into the first court date, the judge struck the allegation out of the case, but then the social worker pushed for drug testing. Now, when it came to the drug testing, I had mentioned to her that my ex had stolen my wallet when they wanted to proceed to these things, to the drug testing. I showed up to the drug testing site with an expired ID. They wouldn't let me drug test. So I called her. She didn't call me back until 2 weeks later, and told me to send her a picture of myself and that she would make a temporary ID. I thought I was to go pick it up from her, but she said that no, she would send it out through the mail. My ex, being on drugs, was breaking into my apartment's building's mailboxes and stealing mail, anything that had to do with the DA or DCFS. He was stealing all that, so I never got the temporary ID. Then at some point, the social worker lost a phone again, got it stolen, had to wait until I got paid. She just stopped calling me, stopped all communications, didn't speak to her from July of 2021 until May 2022. And that was like only because I had a second court date. And I had told her that the caregiver had told me of 2021, October 2021, that I was not allowed to see or speak to my daughter until the social worker got in contact with me. So that was in October 2021. I didn't hear from her until May 2022. When we did finally speak, the social worker said, I never said that. I don't know what she's talking about. So I sent her a screenshot of, the caretaker's name. It showed the phone number and it showed what she had texted me. So this whole time that I'm supposed to be drug testing, still clean, drug free, it had always been like almost like a sabotage, because I had showed my lawyer. We were supposed to go to court in September. The social worker had texted me like 2 days before the court date asking me to drug test, and I said, okay, just tell me, where do I go? She didn't respond back. Text her 5 minutes later, didn't respond back. Text her a day later, the same day of my court date, still in the morning, still texting her. She never responded back to me. So then she wrote in the report that I was non-compliant. I should say during this whole time, I had to take victims of domestic violence classes, parenting classes, and anger management, and do one-on-one therapy. did all of that, completed everything. The only thing that was not completed was the drug testing. So, um, so with that being said, the last court date, the social worker put no family reunification due to noncompliance. And so from that court date, which was in September, to the court date that happened this year in January, they decided to reunify my daughter with her father, my abuser. Um, and that's where we're at now. So we're in this didn't get my parental rights terminated, but wasn't granted family reunification due to me being non-compliant. But my lawyer that was appointed by the courts or through the courts, um, you know, the only thing was all she told me was she said, first of all, there's no, if you could check into an outpatient program for drugs, she was like, that would show the judge. And I was like, wait a minute, just working in the medical field, there's not going to be any drug rehab that's going to admit somebody or take somebody in that is like using medicinal cannabis, first of all. Like, I mean, somebody that has like an opioid addiction versus somebody who takes edibles due to like, side effects of radiation. Like, it's just unheard of. But I proceeded to call places anyways, and they all said pretty much the same thing I told my lawyer. So she said that her supervisor told me or suggested that I join MA, which is like Marijuana's Anonymous, and go to 2 meetings every day until our next court date, which would be 6 months from January. So then she could file a 388 to show that there has been change in the situation. So that's where I'm at.
You spoke to me a while back, remember?
Yeah.
And you told me when you called me or you contacted me again, you said that you've been watching my shows and I was dead on.
Yeah. Yep.
So basically, you guys, she was, well, it's been a while. You guys think that everything is going to work in your favor because, your abusive ex-husband or ex-boyfriend or the father is not going to have a chance. But what you guys don't understand, like I said to you many times, 100% of the time, the abuser gets the child. And that's a fact. And always when the mother shows concerns to the court or to the social workers, they think the mother's making up the whole thing to sabotage the father. And I told you guys before, anybody can be a father. Anyone can be a father, but not everyone can be a dad. So, but the social worker sees it's always in the father's favor for some reason. But if it's the husband and wife that love each other, the social worker will take the kids from both of them because they're close, they're in love. And what they want to do is separate the family, divide and conquer, divide and conquer. And I told you guys that so many times. So, Ellie, I mean, you're truly, I've known your story for a while. You and I talked about it many times.
Yeah.
And everything she's telling you guys is true because I did do my research with her. I did check everything. So she's legit. She's cool. So
Yeah.
so she's cool people. But what she's saying is clearly the truth. In fact, her abuser really abused her so badly. I have seen pictures of her abuse. I mean, of the bruises on her body. I have seen it, but the system doesn't care. It doesn't care. But what do you have questions from Attorney Davis, Ellie?
I guess my questions would be more so pointed towards like my civil rights.
Mhm.
there came a point, like I said, where the social worker, even though she's denying it, it's on text, where she's telling the caretaker that I wasn't allowed to see or speak to my daughter, even though it's court ordered. Still is the court order is still standing. As far as like visitations and conversations, I feel well. I don't feel I've been alienated from my child. And not only do I feel alienated, I also, like I said, I feel targeted. I was born into the system. My mom was 13 when she had me. I aged out of it.
Mhm.
I'm proud to say that, not saying that there's anything wrong or anything like that, but statistically, um, I'm not statistically out of all the foster children that I know, um, I'm probably out of the 15 that I know and still speak to, I'm the only one that is without a criminal record. I'm the only one that graduated high school. I'm the only one that, did some college, but now I'm back in school. I wasn't, yeah, just statistically, I'm not supposed to be like anywhere near this responsible parent and whatnot. And so I feel that they have targeted me, due to the fact of like me not having the proper support system according to them. So, what can I do as far as, you know, uh, I guess I don't know if I do it against the department or against the social worker herself, but I mean, somebody has to take accountability, and it has to, they're like, somebody has to be punished for them like abusing or violating my civil rights as an American citizen.
So
Mr. Davis,
she's
I have a
looking for
question for you when
vindication,
you're
Vincent. She's looking like for vindication, or maybe to sue the Department of Children and Family Services.
Yeah, like I mean, somebody has to be held accountable for this because, I mean, like I said, I have a court order still standing. And for a social worker to say that I cannot speak or visit my child until she gets in contact with me, which wasn't until what, October, November, December, January, February, March. It wasn't until like 6 months later from the time she said that until the time that she called.
So Davis, what advice can you give her on that?
Well, I wasn't too sure of the question she was asking me.
She wants justice. She's looking for justice. She wants to hold them accountable. And I did discuss that with her earlier, and I told her that there is no justice. And basically, it's either focus on making sure that the court orders are followed and she has relationship with her child, or she wants justice. So what advice would you give her? What answers? I mean, what can you tell her about that?
Well, Ellie, let me ask you this.
Yes.
Are your children in your custody?
No,
No.
Have your parental rights been terminated?
no,
So you're still going to court and trying to get them back?
yes.
Okay. So let me just tell you a secret.
Okay.
Okay.
Yes.
All right. I'm trying to find the most politically correct way of saying this. Okay. You're focusing on the wrong thing
Okay.
at this point in time.
Okay.
Next month, 5 months from now, you get to refocus on, suing them.
Okay.
Right. But if you try to sue them without your children in your custody,
Oh no, I've
you,
watched you for 2 years, and I'm well aware like that's something that should not and cannot be done.
well, it can be done. It's just a bad strategy, in my
Yeah.
humble opinion.
Yeah.
Okay. Now, I'm sure there are very many attorneys that would disagree with me, and that's okay. All right. So focus on getting your children back.
Okay.
Now, I know you're upset with the social workers in the counties. Everybody is.
Yeah.
But do you notice the name of this show?
The secrets, how to get my kids back.
No, How to Fight CPS and Win.
Okay, yeah.
So I just told you the secret. The secret is focus on getting your kids back.
Okay.
Now, there's many ways to do that. Okay. I'm going to assume for a second, but I don't know this for sure, that you're in California. You may not be. All right. But if you were in California, you would have to sit down with your attorney face to face on Zoom or on the telephone
Hmm.
and say, look, man, or look, young lady,
Hmm.
I need to know what the plan's going to be to get my kids back by the next court hearing.
Right.
Then you guys come up with a plan. Now, I can't give you a plan. You know why? I've never reviewed your file.
Okay.
But you've told me about your case, generally speaking. But for me to say something really useful for you, I'd
Mhm.
have to look at your file, your
Okay.
minute orders, okay?
Right.
Because every case is different. And I say that, but it's true. Every case is different. A lot of people call me and they think, all domestic violence cases are the same. All drug cases are the same. All physical abuse cases are the same. They're not. They're not. And see, here's what makes it even more complicated. Not only is your case facts different, but your judge is different
Hmm.
from Georgette's judge, from Deirdre's judge. The attorneys on your case, they're all different county councils. Some county councils, believe it or not, are family oriented. A lot aren't. So that means something. Some
Yeah.
minors attorneys are family oriented. Some aren't. Unfortunately, what I see a lot of minors attorneys that are doing this these days just take the department's side and keep the kids away from the parents. Which to me, everybody gets to practice law the way they want to.
Yeah.
I didn't practice law that way. A lot of people don't realize this, but when I started doing this, and you were a court appointed attorney in LA at least, you represent parents, relatives, and children. Okay. So you could, depending on the case, you could represent anybody in that family group. You know who the hardest person to represent in a juvenile dependency case is?
The
A
jury.
child.
Yeah.
A child. It's hard. But I always took it, it was my position that, we got to try to get this kid back home with the parent. And one of the reasons why is, I grew up without a parent. I grew up without my mother. A lot of people don't have that experience. A lot of people grow up without a father. Growing up without a mother, that's a whole different thing.
Yeah. It is.
So when I used to represent kids, that was in the back of my mind. Today, I don't think that's an issue with people, or with a lot of minors counsel.
Yeah.
And they're so conservative. You're a parent and you look the wrong way, or you just say the wrong thing, or you test once for methamphetamine, or you have that one domestic violence counseling. Maybe you shouldn't get your kid back for 12 months until you learn a lesson.
Or never get your kid back.
Yeah. Yeah. So, every case is different. That's what I'm telling you.
Yeah.
Now, if you had a minors counsel on your case that was me versus the minors counsel on your case now, it'd be a whole different thing.
Can't
You know
wait
what
to
I you
like
know
go
what I
back.
used to do? You know what I used to do? Here's something. And judges a long time ago, 30 years ago, 25 years ago, used to consider this. Let's say you had a drug case. A lot of judges would give you the kid back as long as you tested clean.
Mhm.
If you tested dirty, they would, take the kid away from you. Nowadays, that's not happening. You got to test clean for months before we think about giving you your kid. And in the interim, you can see your kid a couple times a week. In the name of protecting children, we are destroying a lot of kids.
Yeah.
That's just my opinion. Right? Just
I
my opinion.
are aware of the damage that they're doing, having our kids.
No, they're not aware. They're not aware. They really think they're doing good.
Yeah.
They're not aware. You know
Mr.
why?
Davis, I have a question for her when you have a chance.
All right, you know why? Because none of them have has lived through that experience. Go ahead, Deidre. You have a question.
Well, I was just curious in the beginning, if I heard you correctly, you said that basically the reason why they took the children from you is because you didn't basically follow through or actually get the restraining order, even though there were several attempts on your behalf. But in all honesty, as far as allegations go, I mean, that was the main thing that they took your kids from you, is because you didn't follow through with the restraining order. But then at the end, you said that they returned your child to this person that they wanted you to get a restraining order from.
Yeah. So let me say that. I know it's yeah.
But here's something even more crazy. And this used to happen 25 years ago. If they wanted you to get a restraining order, okay?
They could have done it for you.
Exactly. They used to
They
do
could
that.
file one for you, a protective one, right?
Yeah.
Or there's not a
Well, you know what they would do? You know what they would do?
emergency one.
Is they leave the kid with Ellie. They'd file a case, and on the first day, they'd get Ellie a restraining order.
Yeah, they'd get it for you. Yeah.
Yeah, but now, I hear this all the time. Get a restraining order, or we're going to take the kid away from you. Here's the problem. Ellie's not a lawyer. She doesn't know what the hell she's doing.
Yeah, so I went 3 times to fill out the restraining order, like realizing like by the 3rd time what I did wrong. Like by the 2nd time I figured out what I did wrong in the 1st time. The 2nd time, like I corrected the 1st mistake. 3rd time I corrected the 2nd mistake. Finally, a judge granted the restraining order, like probably like God, probably like 4 months later, and then a year after that, another judge, because he kept getting locked up, and the calls were still going into the city that I lived in to that police department. Finally, a judge awarded. First, it was a year restraining order. Then another judge from another court was like, no, we're going to give her a 10-year restraining order against him. So when this restraining order was granted, the 10-year, which was like, relief. But, when I find out that they're giving our daughter back to my abuser, which now has a 10-year restraining order, I asked not only my lawyer, but the social worker just recently as well, like, are you guys serious? Like, so I don't get to see my child as it is, that she's in like the caretaker was my abuser's or is my abuser's sister-in-law. So they're family. So the chances were slim back then. So how do you guys think that this is going to play out for me? Like, it's going to get worse, being that there's a restraining order in place, and it's now a 10-year restraining order. So my biggest fear has or is like in play as we speak, which is the phone contact. It's just a cat and mouse game, and they're like they're using my daughter as like like a stake, teasing a lion. And video chats or phone calls were supposed to happen. It was like agreed upon recently, like actually the next day after I spoke to Ms. G the other night. The next day we came, the social worker, I, and the grandmother of my child, we all came to an agreement that phone calls were supposed to happen at 7:30 daily. Visits were now like, so yeah, to, so 7:30 every night I'm supposed to be able to video chat or speak to my daughter over the phone. Like, 2 days into it, nothing, you know. Um, so it's just like,
Mr.
okay.
Davis, though, how can her case keep going if really the only allegation is she didn't get the restraining order? Like, how could her court-appointed attorney fight
Well,
for
no,
her to get her kids
it's
back?
like that.
See, this
It
is
was
the
not
danger,
compliant
Deidre. This is
with.
the danger. All you know about the case is what she's telling us. Now, she's not intentionally hiding anything. The problem is she hasn't read to you what the petition filed against her says. And I can guarantee you that it doesn't say, oh, she didn't get a restraining order.
Yeah.
And if it does, it says 10 other things.
Yeah. Like, well, what I was supposed to do initially, the social worker told me I have to get a restraining order, move from my place I was living at, because I was pretty much like easy access. I was like accessible to him at any given point, being that he knew where I lived. Like I told the social worker, we are in the middle of this pandemic. We just went into lockdown. The lockdown hadn't been lifted yet. Anywhere, the 3 apartment buildings that I did find in my city that was like renting, once we did the background check, they denied me. 1, because I worked for a medical facility. 2, because of all of the calls with the domestic violence. They didn't want to risk anybody getting COVID because I did work in a medical facility. 2, they didn't want to risk the safety or have the responsibility of that going on in their apartment building. Now, I should say that the reason why the social worker, the DCFS worker, didn't recommend family unification was because I was non-compliant with drug testing, and that's what it says on the court report. And that's where, yeah, that's where I messed up. I at this point, I should have just like went and paid for drug testing, but my lawyer said that they wouldn't even have accepted it or recognized it because it has to be by referral from DCFS. The social worker told me recently that she has to be the one to get the judge to sign the referral. So right now, which I don't really understand why I spoke. Well, I spoke to the social worker yesterday, and so the judge didn't reinstate the drug testing at the last hearing where I was like, no reunification for me. But I told the social worker, like, look, this is what my lawyer recommends. So I need to be drug tested weekly. So the social worker was like, okay, so I'll put in the order to the judge for drug testing. So yesterday she told me that she did put the order in, but her lawyer had said that the judge did grant drug testing, but only monthly. So she said, so what's going to happen is like, you're going to be drug tested about twice a month. And I said, okay, but my lawyer recommended it weekly. So can I pay for those other 2 weeks? So that way it shows like I drug tested weekly. The social worker then said no, because we won't, the courts won't recognize any drug testing facility that we don't recommend. So the one I'm referring you to does not accept cash. It only works with DCFS cases, and you have to be referred by us. Which then I was like, oh, okay. Pretty much, yeah, at this point, I just have to shake my head, yes, agree or disagree with whatever their recommendations are until, Like I get
Did you
my,
appeal the reunification?
excuse me?
Did you put in appeal for when they stopped your reunification services or
Yes,
no?
lawyer did, but she said where I live at, it's gonna take it could take up to 6 months. And it'll be at that point, it's gonna be another lawyer through another law firm that will be handling that case. So, yeah, the appeal was put in January. So right now, I guess, I mean, I don't even know because my lawyer hasn't got back to me, but from the last time we spoke in January, I guess I'm doing these drug testing to file for a 388, which shows that there has been a change in a situation and not changing a situation. So the change in the situation is to not use or partake in medicinal cannabis whatsoever. So, um, so I'm just like, oh, so being that, I have anxiety due to all the abuse that took place, because the abuse, like I said, there was 37 incident reports in the city that I lived in, 5 emergency protection orders that was granted, a year restraining order, which then turned into a 10-year restraining order. Um, Obviously, any sounds or any noise that I hear, or it could even be a similar voice to his if I hear it, like yeah, it strikes fear in me, so that, like, medicinal cannabis or using edibles was like really the only thing that helps me sleep. um Now, uh yeah, like sleep
You
would
know
have.
what's so funny though, Ellie? Social workers use cannabis too.
Right, yeah,
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 they use it also, and they also use it to help them to sleep.
right.
I, yeah, I
Mind you,
will,
like, it's not only for that, but like I said, I went through radiation therapy for cancer. So like the side effects, like, you know, are still there. So it's just like, that's why I said I feel targeted, because it's just like, you know, uh like, marijuana, are you serious? Like, when this dude, what my ex tested for, like methamphetamines, uh,
mhm,
PCP, but because he went to a rehab, or yeah, um,
yeah.
and got help from them, like, I guess that deems him okay, you
See,
know?
that's the point I was making earlier. Remember, what did I
Yeah,
tell you? It just they choose men over women. And if a woman calls the police to for domestic violence to protect her and her kids, they always say the woman failed to protect. Why? I don't know. If
do you
she called
remember when
the police, say what?
Miss
Try
G?
shelter?
Do you remember when we were speaking, Miss G, and I told you, like, at one of my last visits with my daughter, that her and I were playing a game, and I was like, we would ask a question, like each one of us would like toss a ball to one another, and whoever caught the ball got to ask the other a question.
Mhm.
Remember when I told you that the last question I had asked her of that game was like, when you remember mommy, what do you remember about mommy? Do you remember like how she plays games, laughs, jokes, whatever it was? And she specifically told me, no, I always remember you, mommy, because you always protect me. You always keep me safe.
Oh,
So that right there, like I told you, I told the lawyer and I told the social workers, like, I don't, it's not fair that the judge is judging me or judging this case, when it comes to me at least. He's judging me based on allegations, like allegedly I did drugs with my abuser. He's not looking at the facts, but not only that, like, judge me based off what you see in my kids. You see that my kids are, healthy, loving,
healthy.
yeah, smart, you know, uh,
And
just
you
like,
guys, just for the people that's watching this show, I did see her kids. She sent me, pictures of her kids. They were happy, healthy, loving towards her, she's loving towards her kids. But again, the judge determined, just all that, just sitting on the bench, determined that she's done drugs with her abuser. I mean, to me, how can you determine such a stupid shit? Sitting on the bench, not knowing anything about this woman, that she did drugs with the abuser, while the kids are with him, the one that did meth, the one that is abusing, the one that is traumatizing the children and her, he has them. It makes zero sense. So if you're accusing her doing drugs with her abuser, then how can the abuser have the kids? That's
Exactly.
to me, it makes no sense. That's why I said judges are stupid. Why? They hear the truth, they see the truth, but they still believe a lie. A lie. A lie, a lie, a lie. That's not proven at all. It's whatever the social worker says. It's to the judge, that's it. It's set in stone. That's it. If she has her hair shaved on the side, and if she has a tattoo, a big tattoo on her arm, the judge automatically sees her as unfit. But if the man has tattoos all over him, he's not unfit. He still has the kids, even if he does meth, even if he was in prison. By the way, there's many cases where the men are in prison. They come out, they take the children from the mother who they abused, almost killed, and went to prison for.
Hey,
So,
ladies, hold on a second. Hold on. Because we're nearing the end of the show, and I want to ask Ellie. Ellie, do you have any questions you want to ask me? Don't tell me any more story. Just say
No,
how, what. No questions.
no. The question, you pretty much answered my question. I need to just focus on getting my children back before I focus on any type of justice. You
Right,
know.
right. Okay. Ms. Deirdre, did you have any questions for me this evening as it relates to Ellie or any other CPS matter?
I just had maybe one thought of, you mentioned your living situation that they kind of use that against you. Maybe, I don't know if you thought of looking into a domestic violence shelter to kind of just prove any way, shape and
At,
form to,
well, that was recommended, and the reason why I didn't was because I was still able to pay my own rent and to like stay in my apartment. My hard-headed self was like, I'm not going to go into a domestic violence shelter due to the fact that I shouldn't have to move and uproot myself because this dude wants to come over here and beat on me. Like, I'm still able to pay my own rent. So I never did, but like a couple people told me, had you went into a domestic violence shelter, your outcome would have probably been different. But to me, it was like, if I take this bed could have been used for a mother who couldn't pay her rent and for her child.
but
For some
I don't think
who,
it's for the money though. It's for the protection.
right,
They would have wanted you to be in there to be protected, not necessarily for the money, but that's
right,
mainly what I think the main cause of a domestic shelter is that they know that you're being protected
right.
from
At
the
the
abuser.
point, once
But
like
hold on a second.
and
That's something. It's definitely something that we should think about. But we're coming to the end of the show, and Miss
Yeah,
G,
that's all I had.
before I
Sorry.
play the gong,
thank you,
did you have
teacher.
any questions for Ellie or me or?
hey, Ellie,
Yes,
I want you to call me after the show.
I will.
All right. I love you.
Love you too. Thank you, Miss G. Thank you, Deidre. Thank you, Mr. Davis.
Thank you, Ellie, for joining us. I really appreciate it. Keep in touch, okay? I have a
I
feeling you're going to be keeping touch if you're
oh
calling
yeah,
Miss G after the show on her private number. So
right,
we'll
right.
we'll see you later, Ellie. Bye bye. Okay,
Good night.
ladies,
Oh,
this is the end of the show. We're like 5 minutes past due. No, we're 9 minutes past due. No, 5 minutes. So, tomorrow's show is at 7 p.m. Okay. I hope to see both of you there. And there's this show that I want to start, and it's not really me starting it. It's an idea that I had, and I want to implement it, but I need Miss G's help.
The prayer group.
Yes. Yes. It's something that's needed by a lot of parents all across the country. Okay? And it wouldn't be me leading it. I think it should be a person, like one of you ladies, Miss G, who has gone through this, who's actually, you've given this whole scenario that people go through a lot of thought. You've been through the grinder, still going through the grinder.
Do you want me to do the show, Mr. Davis? Is that what you're
Yeah.
asking me? Okay.
Yes, but I
All
want
right.
to I want to start it. I mean, we talked about this last week, and I sent out a message to Grace, and I think to you. Let's start it. Let's quit thinking about it. Let's just do it. 10 p.m. Tuesdays or Thursdays or both. Prayer group. No legal advice, no CPS talk. Let's just pray for ourselves.
I think you were just trying to find out, like, did you want to use Zoom and how you were going to post it to the show?
No,
I think that's the last thing.
I decided we'll just use StreamYard. We'll start off with StreamYard, see how it works. People can watch, and
I
if we,
forgot that. Deidre just reminded me. That's right. You were supposed to come up with a way to do it.
yeah, and I said, and I've texted both you and Grace that we'll use StreamYard.
I didn't get that.
Well,
But,
Grace,
like, I'm confused with
Grace,
StreamYard. Like, let's say if I wanted to join the prayer group as a guest, like, what information would I have? Would I have to reach out to one of you from the show to get that information? Or
you'd
would it be
reach out to you reach out to Grace, you reach out to Miss G. I'm sure if Miss G did the show, she'd tell her the people that follow her, because she has a herd of people that follow her, and tell them, and they tell people, and then they tell people. To be
then
honest
Grace
with
then
you,
has to send it out to all those people is what I'm
yeah,
asking?
yes, of course. To be honest with
You
you,
don't think
it probably will end up being the most popular show on our
No, I
channel.
understand that, but with Zoom, I'm just trying to give you an idea because I use it a lot with schooling and stuff. As far as the accessibility for people to join, would I think be much easier if I were to see, like, let's say on your page tonight, Zoom session at 10 o'clock. Here's the ID number and the password. You go to Zoom, you put the ID and the password in, and you're in. Where with StreamYard, they would have to be doing a lot of work between all these different people just to be able to join the prayer group for that night, if that makes sense.
Or they can just look on YouTube or look on one of these Facebook channels and just watch it live without joining.
Oh, I thought the whole point of it, though, was so that you could be a part of the prayer group, though.
Well, I was going back and forth in my mind about that. And
Okay, so that's
if we did it that way, Deidre, Zoom obviously would be better.
okay.
But I'm thinking about just starting it with StreamYard and seeing, and maybe having a person on with Miss G, and they're praying together and everybody's watching. Now, if we get feedback and say, I want to be a part of that, and it's more than 9 people, we got to go to Zoom.
Well,
right?
yeah, that's why I thought, I'm thinking, how are all these people going to be on StreamYard praying together? But you're
and here's what happens a lot on Zoom. Happened to me today in a Zoom meeting. Everybody doesn't turn on their video and their microphone. They're just watching. Just like right now, people are watching this because they can't join. So on StreamYard, I didn't send them an invite.
Yeah.
But if you're on Zoom and you have more than 9 people that want to join, but a lot of people, don't necessarily want to join. They want to watch. Maybe they're sitting at home or wherever in their car and watching, and they just want to silently and anonymously pray along with the group.
I will make it happen. I will discuss it with Grace and I will share it with the public. And I do have a lot of people that want me to start it as well.
Oh, I bet you do. I bet you do.
I receive a lot of text messages.
Okay.
I do talk to people every night anyway. So
all right, folks, we're double 10 minutes over now. I want to say good night to everyone. Thank you, Miss G. Thank you, Miss Deidre Payne. And we'll see you guys tomorrow night at 7 p.m. The Secret, How to Fight CPS and Win. Good night, all.
Good night.